It's about that time.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of City Views. We're so delighted to bring to you our Meet Candidates segments where you can get some insights on what candidates are thinking, what their plans are, what their visions are, and how you can support them in their endeavors to lead our great city of Torrington. We want to thank our sponsor for City Views, Toth Insurance Agency, located at 1151 East Main Street. Better protection, better value. And today we are very, very happy to bring to you our esteemed mayor, the Honorable Elinor C. Carbone. Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us and doing this for us.
It's not a problem. You know our mission here at City Views, and you have been a guest on our show numerous of times in the past, and it's always been a fun time having you on the show.
Thank you.
However, things are kind of getting serious.
Yes, election season. Absolutely.
Indeed it is.
This is when the public gets to make big decisions on where they think we should be going over the next 4 years. So I appreciate your opportunity, and your thoughtfulness in bringing this to the public.
Not a problem, Mayor. It's our pleasure. Now, we're keeping our formats kind of basic.
Mm-hmm.
We just want to delve into the whys, whats, and the hows. And please take as long as you feel is necessary to make your positions clear. But the first question that we want to submit to you is why you are running for your third term as mayor of the city of Torrington.
So I will tell you that being a contributing member of this community has been a lifestyle for me. Going back many decades, I first started serving on the PTO in the schools that my sons attended. I, from there, got elected to the Board of Education, served 4 years, got elected to the City Council, served on that board for 6 years, and have been serving as the mayor of the city for the past 8 years. In between all of that, sprinkle in my commitment to my church, where I taught CCD and worked in this community, volunteering wherever I could. So it's important to me to be a part of the solution to any problems that may present themselves here in the city. And my focus has always been on how to make our hometown a safe, happy place for all of our residents to live. You know, whether you're a retiree or a young person looking to begin your career, or a young family, we want to make sure that we're providing the kind of community that fits you. My strategy and approach to achieving those goals has always been deeply rooted in the problem-solving strategies that we used in the Working Cities Challenge. I know, Jacques, you were very much a part of that. And it was a problem-solving methodology that I totally embrace because of its impact and its building solutions from the ground up. So for anybody who isn't familiar with that methodology, you know, we made sure that we were identifying the real problem, that we clearly defined the problem, that we analyzed the problem, and then brainstormed and selected the best solutions for the problem and developed an implementation plan. Through this approach, I have developed strong connections and relationships with our federal and state partners within the governor's office, our Department of Economic and Community Development, DOT, DEEP, EPA, and the Department of Housing. You know, these relationships have resulted in over $7 million worth of grant funds that have been granted to the city of Torrington over the past 8 years. And we use those grants in brownfield remediation infrastructure improvements, and business development. That $7 million of investment has in turn resulted in over $100 million of development. That's grand list growth, that's business growth. So I believe that my experience and confidence that I've garnered in my ability to bring a project to fruition has us well positioned to pursue additional development opportunities, and certainly has gained the respect of all of those partners that we have worked very hard to develop.
Now, I know that this next question may be a bit difficult to answer because there are probably numerous items that you have on your plate in terms of things that you would like to prioritize or address as mayor. But if there's one specific issue that is very close to your heart, or that is relevant to the community in terms of its development, its growth, what issue would that be?
You know, I would say that this pandemic has rocked the economic condition of this community. You know, we haven't even begun to identify the long-term impact that these past 18 months will have on our business community and our families. I think it's going to take strong, experienced leadership to bring us through the next 4 years. I do believe that a lot of the problems or the hurdles that were identified through the work that we did in our Working Cities Challenge have not changed. You know, finding a way to attract and retain our young people in the city of Torrington. We don't want to be a retirement community. We want to be a vibrant community where young families choose to live and work. So I do believe that that will be an important focus for any mayor going forward.
So with that being said, what is your strategy in implementing the solution path to making sure that you're reaching those objectives?
Absolutely. No, that's a great question. You know, I intend to remain focused on the implementation of the solutions that we've developed over these past 8 years. And I'm utilizing the lessons that we learned through any of the studies that we have undertaken, our brownfield area-wide revitalization, our market studies, our roadway improvement plans, community development plans. These are all plans that are community driven. They come from the ground up. Our plan of conservation and development, our municipal development plan, you know, they are community driven plans. And I believe that all of these were well-founded, well-developed, and I find myself now in a comfortable position of just now being able to plug in the right developers, the stakeholders, investors, and even our governmental agencies, because we're bringing to the table a rock-solid plan as to how we're going to move forward on all of this. I can tell you that I am currently in discussion with a number of developers that actually are seeking the city of Torrington out because they're aware of the work that we've been doing over these past 8 years, and they recognize the potential that exists here now. I'm also in a number of communications and conversations with private property owners of significant land holdings, where we can talk about developing a business park or an industrial park, you know, and these are important elements. It's all about the balance of what you're bringing forward. And the third leg of that stool, I would say, is community development, you know, to attract young families or get our young people to stay here. We have to be a vibrant community, you know, that's engaging our arts community. It's about providing those recreational opportunities or those community events that make them feel a part of this community. So those are my focuses. They've been my focus over the last 4 years. I see that very easily translating over the next 4 years and bringing back, reaping better rewards in the next 4 years.
So we're going to detour a tad bit from our normal format here, but I would like to inquire with you, Mayor, about what you feel are some of your major accomplishments over your last two terms that you would like to highlight to our audience.
I would say that the community or economic development, when I say I've brought in $100 million worth of development, I can tell you there is a direct impact of the decisions that I made here in this office that brought those projects to fruition. Whether it was taking the lead on going to DECD and requesting funding to do assessment work on a former dry cleaning establishment that then paved the way for a $5 million office development project to happen, whether it's presenting an opportunity for a tax abatement for elderly housing that paved the way for the completion of that development, which is now our ninth highest taxpayer in the community, to even finding ways to connect our smaller business opportunities to resources. I believe that has been probably the biggest accomplishment that I have. While focusing on that development, I didn't forget what are the other things that make us a community. Focusing on what are we going to do to support the arts community? How are we going to pursue additional funding streams, connecting our arts community to those resources that they may need to continue their efforts and be successful and sustainable. Investing in the community amenities, the dog park down at Toro Field, a disc golf course up at the Alvord Park soccer fields, doing trail development work. We've done miles of trails, pursuing grants so that we can get sidewalks that provide safe passage for pedestrians, foot traffic from the bottom of East Main Street to the top of East Main Street. And while that is a labor of love, it's been going for the past 3.5 years, it's still very much in the pipeline. And we have ongoing discussions with DOT because that's an important project for this community. We're about to finish the splash pad up at the Bessie Pond Park. That's a nice amenity where maybe we eliminated a kids pool that, was always struggling with, the correct balance of chemicals and, clean water, and moving into an amenity that is trending. Young kids want to run around and be wet, but they don't necessarily want to sit in a pool. So those are the things that I feel that I'm most proud of. I can say that the passage of the referendum for road work, before I was elected, we were averaging 2 miles of road work a year, 2-3 miles at best. The last 2 years, we've accomplished 24 miles of road work. That's the direct result of my making the determination that if our utility work in the roads is going at the rate of 4 to 6 miles a year, and we're coming in behind them and only accomplishing 2 miles a year, we're creating a bigger gap and we have to close that. And that's when I went to the public and said, we can solve this problem if we bond these projects and start to keep up with the utility work. The passage of the construction of a new high school, middle school, for anybody that was paying close attention during that, our boards were very much split on whether or not this was the right time to do that. I don't believe for a moment any of them didn't agree that it had to happen. But being in the middle of a pandemic, I think there was some reticence. However, I had complete faith in the Board of Education and the people that were working on the building committee, and I broke the tie to send that to the voters to allow them an opportunity to make that decision. So great things have happened, especially over the last 4 years, and I'm quite proud of those, to be honest.
Now, for anyone that might be listening to this interview that might be thinking about bringing a business to Torrington, perhaps raising a family in Torrington, coming to Torrington for the arts amenities, what would your elevator pitch be to those individuals?
So my elevator pitch first is, if you're thinking of moving to Torrington, I want you to come into my office and sit down with me. And what I'm going to do is I'm bringing to the table our building official, I'm bringing our fire marshal, I'm bringing our city planner, our economic development director, and our assessor. And we sit with a potential developer or a business, and we roll out their plans, and we go through those plans in detail so they can identify what the hurdles would be in moving their project forward. One of the successes that we had in that approach is the Bad Dog Brewery, where Matt Tack came in. He was just kicking tires in the city of Torrington. He and his son met with me. We gave them a few locations that, having grown up in the city of Torrington, we recognized had great potential. He did some due diligence and then came back, identified this property, and that's when we said, all right, everyone roll up your sleeves and let's help him get this project move forward. That's my approach to working with developers. More recently, our Penrose project, which is it is under construction. We're about to celebrate a groundbreaking ceremony next Thursday. The same approach. It's all hands on deck. It's everybody at the table. Keystone Place at Newberry Brook, we did the same thing. I established a liaison for the ongoing construction period, so there's an open line of communication with the city. And most recently, Waters Way is now starting to think about the possibility of another housing development in the former Hotchkiss building, where it's a significant investment. And long before they invest millions of dollars in the design and the site preparation, they want to know that they have a partner at the table with them.
Now, out of the myriad of achievements and accomplishments that you have made in the city over your tenure, what one area do you think really needs to be improved?
Communication. This has been a challenge. We identified this in the work that we did with the Working Cities Challenge. Our community has a very diverse reliance on how they get their news. When I speak to somebody who's young and I say, where are you getting your information? And they say to me, I'm getting it from TikTok or Instagram. When I talk to a senior citizen and they're still relying on the newspaper, as I do, and I'm talking about the paper newspaper on the ink on your fingers kind of paper reader. People are relying on Facebook. They're relying on social media. So there's no one solid source of information. And we have struggled with that. We're not the only municipality or the only agency that struggles with that. It's a problem across the state and across the nation. One of the other proud achievements that I have is chasing a $750,000 grant through the Building Healthy Communities. And a large portion of that grant was dedicated to developing a better communications system. We are about to launch an Everbridge communication system where messages and information can be sent directly to someone's cell phone, much like the alert systems. You sign up and information from the city can be sent directly to your phone, whether it's a parking ban or an important meeting that's coming up on Monday evening or a storm warning. That's a system that the technology is there, and we've determined that it's the time to invest in that. Boosting our presence on social media and developing a newsletter that is not only presented in English, but also we hired a young, dynamic intern that does a lot of our social media and translates it into Spanish for us. So a lot of work to do on that still. We're not there.
Yes. Well, seeing how social media is touching every part of our lives, a great amount of attention does need to be spent on that so that we can flesh out the good from the bad information and make sure that everyone is properly informed. So,
It
Mayor,
does come. Yeah,
yeah.
it comes with its own challenges. I agree.
We appreciate your time. Thank you so much for informing our audience on your vision, your plans, your accomplishments, your achievements. And this isn't a one-off, however. We would like to circle back and speak with you again and take the temperature on how you're feeling as we get closer to the race.
That sounds fine. I think, what do we have? 7 weeks from today. So,
Well,
or actually 7 weeks from Tuesday.
If it goes as fast as this year is go, we'll be talking to you next week.
And that's fine.
I'm
Please.
still mentally stuck in the middle of July, and here it is.
know.
We're almost out of September.
It's about that time.
I saw my first Christmas commercial last week. So thank you so much, Jack. I do appreciate what you do for us in the city and with City Views.
No problem. Thank you, Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Mayor Elinor C. Carbone sharing with us her thoughts on this year's election campaign. You guys tune in on our YouTube channel at cityviews-ct, or check out our website at cityviews-ct.com for the latest in news, arts, and culture. See you back soon with more right here.
City Views. It's about that time.
Hello and welcome to City Views. I'm Jacques Williams, your host. I have the one and only Eileen Marriott. Hello, Eileen.
Hello, Jacques.
Eileen, I want to talk to you a little bit and to our audience about how you've been able to weave this concept into a downtown location. This is literally a kids' museum, and it's been able to not only survive but thrive, especially through a pandemic.
Yeah, it was, a pretty incredible vision that the board had, and really kind of looking at what was happening in our community and thinking about focusing economic redevelopment on young children. Like, who is our future? Our future is children. What is the future for Torrington? These kids. It's what works in Torrington, works in New York, works in California, works in Tokyo, Portugal. Yeah. Kids, they just need open-ended play. They just need the raw ingredients to use their brains and spaces that foster collaboration.
I tell everybody when I talk about kids play that when you go in there, you can't help but be reduced to a kid. It's like you walk into kids play, I don't care how old you are, you're going to go back to 5 years old because you're going to want to play. And you have so many exhibits in kids play.
Yeah.
And I know it's just for kids, okay? But talk to our audience a bit about what might entice them.
Well, Kids Play certainly was designed for that very young child. But what we've discovered is, we really want parents, like we're not babysitters.
Right.
We aren't watching your kids. Sometimes we have programs, but really it's a whole family outing. And sometimes somebody will say, well, why do I have to pay? And it's like, if you come to Kids Play and you do it right, you're going to have as much fun as your kids. Whether it's watching them like kind of sitting, we have these just the right size little bench stools outside the diner, and you can sit and have your kids serve you for once. Or sit in the audience, have them put a production. You see, we've had a long day, so I'm talking about sitting a lot. But our maker space,
Yes.
There's nothing better than sitting next to your kids and playing with a bunch of Legos, building some cars and racing them. We've actually added 4 major exhibits: the climbing wall, the bank, evaporating art, and our Lego ramps, as well as 9 smaller exhibits. So in the last year, not only have we not just like kept our head above water, we've been able to expand what we're doing, which is really awesome.
Eileen,
Yes.
we are here in the former Salvation Army
Yeah.
venue, and you got big ideas for this place.
So actually, this vision started before the pandemic. We actually bought this building in 2019 from the Salvation Army. It had been on early plans for the museum, and then it kind of went away. You know, we were like, oh, maybe we can't do it. And then in 2019, we said, no, we have to do this. This space is really amazing. It is, you know, right next to our original gallery. And quite frankly, we were running out of space. And we will also have a multi-level major new exhibit. In 2016, I think it was, when we finally finished the treehouse, I never thought we'd do anything to that scale again. So here we are, 2021, and not only are we bringing on a really big space, but I think this is going to be, if I thought that was our world-class exhibit, I think our exhibit to be announced will be really world-class, but it'll be 2 levels. And it will be the focal point of this gallery. You know, we really want to make sure that everyone feels welcome here. And that's like a really big thing for me, is that this museum is for every child in this community, like every kid. But, you know, this summer something special is going to happen too. Our governor has decided that it would be a really nice investment for children to go free to museums between July 2nd and Labor Day. And you know, we're really excited about that. We think it's going to bring a lot of families to Torrington to visit Kids Play, and that it's just really like getting kids back on track is critically important. They've had it the worst of all of us. You know, their lives have changed so much. And if they can be here and get used to playing alongside a kid, not having to keep the 6 feet distance, or just get really curious, I think that's going to change change their experience going back to school in the fall.
It's about that time.
Thank you for tuning in to this segment of City Views. We're going to be giving you some real good content from today's Juneteenth celebration. So we want you to stay tuned for that coming up. And as always, don't forget to check out our City Views programming on our City Views CT YouTube channel, or you can go to our website, cityviews-ct.com. And on today's show, we are going to be talking with Democratic nominee for mayor, Mr. Stephen Ivain. Good evening, Stephen. How are you?
Very good, Jock. Thanks for having me on your show.
Not a problem whatsoever. This is an exciting time for us all, seeing how change is in the air. And your candidacy is one that many people are supporting for various different reasons. But before we get into that, Stephen, why don't you talk to our audience a little bit about yourself, your background, and why you feel at this time you would be the right person to run as the mayor of Torrington.
Jock, let's talk about me for a moment. I'm a lifelong resident. I'm a 3rd-generation resident. My grandparents immigrated here in the early 1900s and bought a farm on the west side of town, and I live right around the corner from it now. And what I've been doing, I'm a graduate from Torrington High School, and I've been a financial analyst for 3 different Fortune 500 companies, mostly working in wealth management, retirement planning, various activities around system maintenance, pricing of plans, project management of all kinds. So I hope to bring that to the role as mayor. also like you to know that I'm a father of three. All my kids graduated from public schools. My youngest guy is now in college as a junior, going to UCONN. So we're dropping him off this weekend.
Well, that has to be a very proud moment for you.
Yes, it's a great moment. College is a nice moment for all parents. I'm on home stretch. It's enabled me to take on new tasks like running for mayor. And I look forward to that change. So I'm offering change as part of my campaign. And it should be fun. I hope to bring what I've been doing at work back to my town.
Well, one thing that a wise man once said is that whether you like change or not, it is coming. It is inevitable.
I would tell you that you should volunteer for change before it gets forced upon you.
Well, that's an interesting perspective as well. Stephen, talk to our audience a little bit about why you want to run for mayor and why you think that you might have the qualities to make a successful transition into the Ivain administration.
What I see my town doing is not performing. We need to make the business of Torrington the business of City Hall. We need to organize better to attract businesses. We need to basically have an approach on several fronts that will help us to attract new businesses, that will grow the grand list, that will help us grow our revenues. Right now, I don't see that plan in place. What we're doing is attracting some large developments that are looking for tax abatements, and basically when they ask for a tax abatement, that should immediately translate to they're adding taxes to your house and car when they do that. And these are very long-term tax holidays that from the start, they're asking for 15 and 20 years tax abatements. We should say no to these projects. Step one. The other thing is our businesses that are even calling up City Hall, they're not getting through the process. They end up going to other towns that they know they could go through the process in a reasonable amount of time. We need to change that process at City Hall. We need to basically take a project management tact there. We need to put a plan of action on the table for everyone who's looking to bring up their business to Torrington, define the deliverables there, what a reasonable timeline would be, and we have to act on that. That would be a new process that we would have to implement and make sure we could do it on a timely basis, because when they make that phone call to City Hall, they're trying to find out what is it going to take to get through your process. We should define that for them and help to modify that, because we're in competition for other cities in Connecticut, other cities right up and down Route 8, and they've been scooping our business. And we have all the infrastructure here in town to provide for these businesses. We're right off Route 8. We're actually cheap real estate in Connecticut. We're pitted between Boston and New York. We're off a highway. We have 4 exits on each side of the highway. We should be attracting those businesses. We have gas, water, sewer, electrical, everything they could possibly want. We should probably commit to industrial parks so we could set aside significant land and basically develop that so that when they come and look, we have property right for them that's already zoned commercial, industrial to attract those businesses. Those businesses will be what feeds our budget. We need to take care of the budget revenue first. We just can't cut our way to growth. So the current administration's been cutting the budget. We're not growing the revenue. The revenue is what we have to focus on. So we have to change that focus. We have to organize City Hall.
Well, with those points you're making being said, it seems as if you have a number of items that you want to address on your agenda. But if there is one specific issue that you think is tantamount that you would want to tackle in your first term, what issue would that be?
Well, it is that economic growth. We have to put together an economic commission that actually functions. It's been dormant here in town. We need to present a long-term plan and share that with everybody. We have to speak to it. We have to act to that plan. Right now, I don't see a plan. I see many different opinions and a lot of different directions. We have to be united around a plan and act on that. We could do some simple things immediately, and looking at some large projects that are being presented to our city that we should say no to, because I want to ask the city taxpayers why they would approve those plans only to increase their taxes. Because when they talk about tax abatements, their taxes are going up every year for the next 15 to 20 years. You should really be saying no. There are costs to these housing projects. Usually when you give a tax abatement, it's to attract a new business to town that offers jobs and eventual tax revenue. It shouldn't be a negative cash drag to your taxes. So when you have a large housing project, you have to take in consideration fire, police, education is our biggest cost. So we shouldn't just say it's an open policy we're going to pass on taxes for these developments, and we should start right there. So that would stop the bleeding. Now we have to focus on reorganizing City Hall and organizing to get those industrial parks up and running. We have to build for the future. We have to build for that new tax revenue. We need that tax revenue to fund all the things we need to in our schools, our roads, other infrastructure.
So what would be your second agenda item that you would want to address?
Well, we need to, again, look at schools. Part of what we need to do to attract those businesses, we already have one in progress. It's the new middle school, high school. That's a turnaround situation for Torrington. That referendum, 66% of voters voted for that. That was a very bipartisan vote for us. That turnaround situation is going to help us attract those businesses. When those businesses come to Torrington, they already did their homework. They're looking at, our employees are living there. If they work here, what is that situation? Can we actually afford to live there? Is it a commutable, can they commute from the city to their workplace? So if they want to look at what's the quality of education. And if we have the school buildings that match the quality of our school teachers, that's a home run. Our teachers are already high performing, but we need the facility to match that. So with that, we need to leverage that. We need to market it as we have this in progress. You want to be here because all these things are going to be clicking for our town. We already know it's a great city, but now we need to let other people know it is. We're here. We're open for business.
I'm curious, Stephen, with the myriad of challenges that we have in our educational system, how do you view the quality of education now as compared to the quality of education when you were coming up? And are there any changes that you would like to see made that would improve and enhance the quality of our current educational curriculum?
Yes, I believe our quality of education is there for Torrington, but we have to change. It does change, and we have to continue to change. We should actually encourage us to do brave new things. That could be collaborating. different partnerships for apprentice programs. Compared to when I was going there to high school, majority of students were college bound. There were some shop classes in electronics and mechanics, but the majority of students were academically focused, and we've continued to be academically focused, but our population is decreasing in that college bound classes. So we need to set them up to have successful careers, but not necessarily out of college from high school. So and that there's multiple fronts we could be successful on with that. That would be those partnerships with Pratt & Whitney and UTC and other large shops that would have a wide range of skills that would be apprenticeship programs. But something like that, we should be encouraging and setting up and kind of taking those bold steps to do something different because we have these skill sets locally and we should take advantage of that. We have kids, if we could get them interested in, can fill these places. We have unions asking to train kids in their apprenticeship programs. These are great things. These are great paying jobs and would be great paying careers with strong benefits. And they make great citizens. All those attributes, and Torrington could be making those partnerships work. So it does change and we could change with it. But again, we need to have leadership that encourages those things. We have to be able to strike, and sometimes you strike out, but sometimes you hit the home run too.
Okay, Mr. Ivain, item number 3.
Well, with those new schools, we have to work on education. We need to look at a partnership with our city council and the mayor's office, with our Board of Education. For a while, it's been them and us. We have not maintained the buildings across our city in that front. We shouldn't be having a them and us conversation. This past year, the school budget has been zeroed out, so there's no increase. That means there's no maintenance happening on our buildings per se. We need to really change that situation. We need to look at it as a partnership. We need to increase the quality of it. We need to look at what creative things can we do to improve our education. It matters to our citizens. Along with that, I would say transparency. I've been attending many city council meetings. What we find out is information is released on Friday evening for a vote that goes to the city council Monday night. There's not much time to research over the weekend. There's not much question and answer period. The format of city council is the public gets to speak at the beginning of the meeting. There's not a dialogue. You only make statements, then the city council and mayor speak, and then they vote. And it's not an ongoing dialogue necessarily. So not all the questions get asked right before that vote. I don't believe that would be defined as transparent. I think we have to change that. We should have required timelines. If you propose something with all the facts have now been vetted, then you move to a vote at some later time and not really sneak in those votes. I would make that change.
So are there any other issues that you feel very passionate about that you would like to share with our listening audience today?
Well, I think we have great assets in Torrington. We have 4 state parks. Not all have been, attended to as we could have. We could do great things with these parks in terms of recreation and outings. We should probably take another look at that and attract those state resources to get some attention, and we could do some dynamic things with our parks right in our city. We also have land trust lands. We could do creative things with that. So for instance, I believe we have 1,800 acres of state parks. We have over 600 acres of land trust lands, and they're all around us. People are finding city of Torrington from faraway places, and we have terrific growth right this moment. And it's partially, we have great space that's affordable, and we can make it even better. We should make it an example for other cities to model after.
What's your feeling on downtown?
We could do several things to improve downtown. We should probably look more closely at why do we have parking meters everywhere. We're probably the only city in the state that has a free library, but you have to pay for parking outside. So I'd like to look at that a little bit more closely and understand, well, why do we have this big park with parking meters all over it? It's not a good experience, just in that respect. We have to change parking for us to make all those buildings viable again. People need those parking spaces. People need those parking spaces if they're going to live in those apartments up on the second and third floors of downtown Torrington. We need to partner with the building owners to help them restore their buildings and work on that. I think having solar power panels on their buildings would be a great asset for those downtown buildings. We should coordinate a joint project to go across that, see if we could get collaboration with downtown on that. We could also restore some of the festivals we've had in the past, closing off Main Street. Again, a lot of these fairs, if we had the right communications and partnerships across town, we could have great events and that we've had in the past.
Well, that kind of leads me to my next question with you, Stephen, in terms of arts and culture. As you know, that there is a burgeoning art scene in Torrington and throughout the Northwest corner, mind you. How do you think that arts and culture can be implemented as a way to drive economic development?
Well, it's a great accent. We've had a long tradition of arts in Torrington. Currently, I'm chairman of Chorus Angelicus. That organization is hitting 30-year mark this year, and I'm proud to be a chairman of it currently. But we have a lot of great arts happening across town. We should, we need City Hall to help back their movements. We should, it's a moment to get creative. We shouldn't be so practical and just recycle what we've done in the past. We should enable our commissions to strike out and do new things and test the waters on different fronts. And it could be fun for everybody too. There's a great way to utilize the empty storefronts that we have. Let's negotiate deals with the landlords to have the arts occupy it for some period of time until they could get a long-term tenant to fit in that, and then we'll find another space and another space, and it could be a mobile exhibit for some art galleries. We should probably think along those lines of how do we stop having that look of empty spaces across town. We could fill it.
Well, Stephen, as we prepare to close on this interview, are there any final remarks that you would like to leave with our listening audience in terms of what your administration would look like and the values that you would extend to as far as your public policies are concerned?
I believe it's my approach. I believe I want to be approachable. I want to have a dialogue. I want to be a partner with the arts and everyone in our community, not just some. We need to communicate better across all these events that we're having in Torrington so that everyone could participate. We could be very creative in that front, but we should also enable our business owners to be successful. We have to take the businesses here and help them be successful. And that's collaboration and cooperation. So they need different levels of cooperation with our City Hall, and I want to be there to help make that happen.
Well, you're on your way, and we want to thank you for taking the time to speak to our City Views audience. And I think that we would like the opportunity to have another conversation with you a little further down the road. And you can let us know how your campaign is coming along and share any thoughts that you have to our City Views audience in regards to your candidacy.
Thank you again, John.
It's about that
Not a problem.
time.
Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Ivain, Democratic nominee for the mayor of Torrington, Connecticut. We want to encourage you to stay tuned, check out our YouTube channel and subscribe at cityviews-ct, or check out more content and the full broadcast of the show at cityviews-ct.com on the website. For Dan and the rest of the staff at City Views, we want to thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you around real soon. Ciao for now. Hello, everyone. Jacques Williams here, your host of City Views, encouraging you to check out our next interview with UConn basketball star Rashamel Jones. Let me tell you, Rashamel's come a long way, and he's doing some fantastic things in the community.
And that's why I'm on the front line, starting with the youth, because as a youth whose mind is still changeable in a sense, the education aspect. And when I say education, I'm not just talking about ABCs, learning, any type of putting sentence. I'm just talking about life education as well, putting forth examples for them. I have things, leadership programs myself that I'm about to, get off the ground. And one of them is where I'm going to be bringing in individuals who've spent time behind the walls in penitentiaries and bring them in to share their story. They're going to talk about all the pitfalls that a lot of youth think are cool or is the wave. They're going to come in and give them the opposite of that. And that's the education that I want to present and that I want to give forth to our youth. So by the time these youngsters are in the 6th grade, they've been well educated from the books all the way through the street life, through the world, how to deal with people.
We're also going to be talking a little bit about that special 1999 championship year that put UConn basketball on the map.
I'm going to start you the night before the game. Let me take you there. The night before that 1999 game versus Duke. We just had our team film session, watching Duke and, watching what they love to do, things like that. So after the film session, coach says, all right, guys, go back to the room, hang out, lights is out by this time, let's get ready for tomorrow. So Ricky Moore, my other captain, the co-captain, he and I shared rooms. So all the guys were hanging out in our room that night. So this is the true story. ESPN comes on. So ESPN is doing a special back in Durham, North Carolina at some gas station. Now they're at this gas station, ESPN, and within this gas station, they had all the Duke apparel, and on these Duke shirts, balloons, newspapers already pressed up that Duke won the national title. We're just like, man, we can't believe this. Like we looking at each other with just, really? And right there, we looked at each other that night and Ricky Moore said, listen, man, get out. Everybody out. We going to bed. See you in the morning. Next day, we made history that next day. As my man Khalid Al-Amin said, we shocked the world.
So we encourage you to check it out. You can do so at our YouTube channel on cityviews-ct or our website at cityviews-ct.com.
It's about that
The real
time.
reason, and I think the thing that ultimately pushed me to run, was working as a volunteer on the Torrington High School, Torrington Middle School building project referendum. When I was approached to help with that just a few weeks before Election Day, I never thought in a million years that taxpayers would make a commitment to spend money to build really 2 new schools. And we won that referendum overwhelmingly. This is a good community full of people who get up every day and go to work and work as hard as they can to provide for their families. And my girls learn from tremendous teachers who make do with very little. And they have good friends and good values. And we don't have any desire to change that. But we do think that Torrington's really at a critical point in our history. You know, as taxpayers, we're paying so much money, but we're not getting very much for it. But we have all of these unique things that have happened to us during the pandemic. We have tons of new people that have moved in and have decided to come here, which I want to capitalize on that and keep them here. You know, our children have learned to be in new environments, and we have lots of workers that now can work from home. So there's lots of new changes that I think we can use as opportunities. I think I have a few qualities that really make me a good candidate and could make me a good city councilwoman. I think first, really bringing in that personal experience of being right in the thick of raising children and working. I want to make it so that it doesn't feel like an exclusive organization where only those with free time can come and be part of the decision-making process. So I want to continually bring up the voices of those of us that are, you know, if we're lucky, we're only working one full-time job, right? But most residents of town, many of them are cobbling together multiple part-time jobs. And so I want to figure out how to reach out to those folks to make it easy for them to engage, which then moves on to something else. I do a lot of work in communications. I want to be able to come up with all the ways like Zoom or texting or Facebook Live. Like there's so many methods that are essentially free to engage all of our community. So I want to make sure that I push to do that in as many ways as we can. I'm not afraid to ask questions. I'm not afraid to challenge authority. I want to be able to ask the big questions so that we think big, because we cannot just keep our heads down and hope that things are going to get better. It's not going to happen. It's going to take bold leadership. And people that aren't afraid to take some risks and make investment. You can't cut your way to growing our city and making our city successful. That's not how it works. You can't just cut your way to business growth, and it's the same for a city. So I want to continue to push that when we want to make big things be better, we have to put the investment in, and the investment can be in time, or it can, in many cases, it's going to have to be in money. And I think if we invest in business growth, that's going to turn around and bring more revenue into our city that we then can spend on our schools, our buildings, our police and our fire, and recreation. We should have an open swimming pool right now, and we should have recreational opportunities. When people choose what town to live in, a lot of times they're choosing where there's going to be recreational activities for their children. And it often feels like our current leadership kind of forgets that we have kids living here. And I want to bring in young families.
City Views.